My name's Sergeant Simon Harmer. I joined the Royal Army Medical Corps in '97. I served in Bosnia twice. I served in Iraq for the invasion, and then a couple of months later I went to the Congo, which was the first European-led mission, and then I was deployed out to Afghanistan in 2009. The day I got injured, we were going to march out to a location which is about 3 or 4 kilometres away, which would probably take us about 3 or 4 hours to do because we were loaded with a lot of kit. We also had to metal detect our whole route there. So we left probably about 4:45 in the morning, something like that. And I got about 150 metres outside the patrol base when an improvised explosive device was activated beneath me. So I was unconscious for a split second, and then I woke up and realised that things weren't, I wasn't going to walk this off. Things had changed quite drastically, and I could see all my injuries because my pants and my trousers were blown off, and my right leg was gone. My left leg was irretrievably damaged. I damaged my arm, and I had other bits and pieces that had been injured as well. So I knew I was in a bad way, and I couldn't treat myself because my arm was dislocated and broken. So I couldn't roll. I was on my back and I couldn't move because my rucksack was that heavy. I couldn't turn back onto my side. It took a while for the blokes to get to me to actually start treating me, and actually I landed probably about three foot away from another IED. We got outside the patrol base, and that's where they started treating me properly, and for want of a better word, they saved my life outside there. So all this happened on the Monday, and I was flown back to the UK, and I was back in the UK by Tuesday morning.
Our family, John, myself, Ross and Simon.
Chap with Major's pits on his shoulder came and knocked at the door, and I said, "Come on then, what is it?" And obviously he told me. I then phoned Maurice and said, "Get home now."
Yeah.
So he thought either I'd had a heart attack, the roof had blown off the house, or something had happened to Simon.
To begin with, I just thought there was something wrong with John. Then your mind runs on a bit, and I'm thinking, if it's not that, I just hope the ceiling's caved in, because the third thought is not what I want. John opened the door, said it's Simon, but he's alive. When this major first had to reiterate it all to me, he said Simon had a baloney on his right leg. I thought, oh, that's okay, he'll cope with that. So I was dumbfounded when he then said he had an above knee on the left. Then we had to try and get hold of Marissa. Didn't know where she was. She didn't answer my call on her mobile. I texted, and then she breezily phoned up, rang back. Of course, I wasn't prepared and didn't handle that very well. All I could hear was her screaming. It was horrible.
And then I woke up on the Friday. My family came in, so my new wife and me and Marissa, we'd only been married for 3 months at that point. I didn't want to let this be a restriction. I just wanted to move on with life and get back on and do things. I didn't know what that looked like at that time, but I wanted to get on and do things.
He didn't want to go down the road of being miserable and a sad git in the wheelchair. He wanted to get on with his life, and then that's that very, very positive attitude that I suspect takes a lot of energy to follow. Easier just to sit back and do nothing, isn't it?
I remember when I was in hospital, someone said, try and find one good thing, or even a few good things from one bad thing. And so I tried to do that, and I tried to do that every day. I tried to find the good from the bad. I was only in hospital for about 5 weeks, and I discharged in the December. and I was admitted to Headley Court, which is in Epsom. It was the 8th of December, and by the 17th of December I was actually walking on my prosthetic limbs, albeit in between a set of bars, but I was walking. I just wanted to get back on the horse, or I wanted to do what I used to be able to do. And I knew it'd be different, and it'd never be the same, but I wanted to get as close to that as I possibly could.
So I met Simon when I worked at Headley Court as an ERI. Simon came into the gym, and I just remember him being very thin and very pale, and I think that's my first recollection, and being very quiet, which is quite normal for when new patients arrive, because I think it's quite an environment to go into. I think, and I say this now in hindsight, I think his humour and his love of sport previously, so I didn't know that previously he'd been triathlon, biathlon, snow sports, and I didn't know that about him, and I think now in hindsight, I think that's what helped him get through, that once he realised and could see around him that sport was still on the table, it was still there to be done, just in a different way. I think, from my point of view, that helped him, and his humour definitely.
And not long after I was injured, I got the opportunity to go skiing again, and it was downhill skiing, alpine skiing, and it was something that I did a little bit of beforehand, because although I skied, it was cross country, and it's something big in the army, and it was a bit, I still felt quite vulnerable. I was still quite injured. My arm wasn't mended in any way, and I felt quite scared to begin with. But I had a go, and by the end of the week, I was getting airborne, and it was a lot of fun.
The Armed Forces Para Snow Sports team.
Add some snow. Nice. Add some poles. Add some skis. Add a sit ski.
Add an amputee.
Guilty. And that's a mean machine at -15.
I work with the physical side, which, and this is in no way a flippant comment, it's much easier. Our minds can tell us, our minds can be really strong to drive us one way, or they can be really strong to drive us the other way. And I think, especially with things like the endurance events, your body will keep going. It's your mind that will tell you to stop. And it does. It says, you can stop now, you can stop.
Before I was injured, again, I used to take part in triathlon, and I love swimming, which was easy for me to get back into, to be quite honest. But the cycling part, I loved the freedom of being out on my bike, and I didn't think I was going to get that again with being on a hand bike, but actually I did. And my first challenge was in northern France, and I did a bike ride for Help for Heroes, and it really sort of set me on my way to doing more challenges. And I volunteered for a massive challenge that we were doing in America, which was a race across America. So a team of 8 of us, 4 on hand bikes and 4 on normal bikes, but all of us were injured in a certain way. And actually, out of the 8-man team, only two legs properly functioned within the whole team.
Race Across America is arguably one of the most difficult endurance cycling events in the world. It's a 3,051 mile mad dash from Oceanside on the western seaboard to Annapolis on the eastern seaboard. Over that time you cover obviously 3,051 miles, and you ascend over 170,000 metres as well over the duration of the event. Simon's not very good when he's sleep deprived, as we know. He becomes chin strapped, is a common term in the army. So basically it means that when you don't have your beauty sleep, you become a very narky and grumpy bastard.
So I always try and get involved in different charitable events of some sort, and I always try and do different challenges. Sometimes I repeat the same one because I enjoy it, and sometimes I try different ones. So last year, although I'd skydived before, I hadn't done it since I was injured. So I did a tandem skydive with one of my friends. He mentioned it quite offhand and said, "Oh yeah, I'd like to do a skydive." So I signed him up for one, and he knew that we were going to be doing it for charity, so he had to do it. this year I'm doing lots of big swims, and some of them I'm repeating. So I've done the Brownsea Islands open water sea swim a few times. I'm doing that again this year.
We've trained, gone swimming together. It's always funny, always a good laugh. Except that, you know, when you're actually doing the swimming bit, he's, you know, miles ahead of me, and I consider myself quite a good swimmer.
There's always something happening, and it's always raising money for a particular charity or another. So, and that's what I love doing now.
What do you like best about your daddy?
He gives me cuddles and kisses at bedtime.
Yeah.
What about you, Leo?
He gives me bananas kisses to bed.
Before I go to bed? And kisses before you go to bed?
Yeah. Bananas.
And kisses?
And no bananas.
Just bananas.
I didn't know if I could have children because of some of my injuries, and you know, we wanted to see if it was something that was still viable. And fortunately, Marissa, you know, she fell pregnant quite early on. It was probably only about 5 months after I was injured. So in 2011, we had our first daughter. You know, we had our first daughter, Sophia, and she's just turned 5. And then along came Leo, not long after Sophia, and he's 3. And then not long after Leo came Amelia, and she's not far off 6 months. So yeah, it's a handful, and we've got an able-bodied adult and a half able-bodied adult dealing with 3 children. So it's a challenge, but it's an awful lot of fun because, you know, that's what makes it all right, I suppose.